Lindsay, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Derek? Thanks for
Uh,
having me.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. This is going to be a great conversation. We had a conversation just last week or the week before for your podcast for
We
Dose of Social.
did. Yeah, thanks for being a guest on Dose of Social. Can't wait
I,
to share more soon.
yeah, that was really fun and nice because I'm not necessarily a social media expert per se, but we talked a lot about careers and just sort of our past, the past work that we've done, and tried to give some advice in there that was hopefully fun and timely. But I don't know, what'd you think? How'd we do on that one?
Yeah, I thought it was great. And I mean, I think the power of social media is just in this conversation too. I mean, you and I reconnected after so many years on LinkedIn, right? Because we both have podcasts. So I mean, I think that itself shows the power of social media.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, today we're diving in, and today is about you, though. So, if you're for those that are just joining us, I'm with Lindsay Mauk. You are the founder and CMO of LTM Digital, your digital media agency, and you're doing a lot of great work. And the podcast is great. There's so much good advice on there, and I have it on my notes. I've got it on my notepad as one of my to dos, like every week to like dive in and start really, tapping into the expertise that you've got because you've got a lot of great advice. How's the podcast been received for you?
Oh, the podcast has been amazing. So my co-host Kayla Pearlstein and I started it back in October of 2024, and the idea was to give just small, like micro episodes, 20 to 30 minutes max, that were just like full of actionable tips, like social media tips for small businesses and brands. So that was really the idea behind creating Dose of Social.
Very nice. Well done. Well done.
And and yeah, it's been great. So we just wrapped up our second season this week, and we are going to be launching the third season in the beginning of May, which Derek is going to be a guest on. And it's really just about actionable insights and things that we can share about how you can manage social media for your business or brand. A lot of small businesses are managing social media themselves,
Hmm.
or they may ask someone like an admin or someone who works for them to do social media, but maybe doesn't necessarily have the experience in social media. So the idea is really to educate around social media and also know when it's time to bring in a professional. So
Yeah, and when it's time, you're there. And we're gonna. I want to talk about that because you've been in business. Let's go back though a little bit. Like you said, we met. We decided almost 20 years ago or so. And just as you said, the power of networking is so important. And I had a conversation with a young college student the other day, and she was explaining how important networking has become for her, but it was something that she never considered, didn't want to do, really was felt like an introvert. But once she did it and got in the habit, it became this good thing. But I mean, for this many years, how important has networking been for you? You think in building your business? And let's start there for a second.
yeah, I mean, I think networking has been instrumental for me in building my business to what it is today. And also when I was getting started back in the day, I've always been someone who's embraced social media. I've been using social media for 20 years now. I mean, I've been on LinkedIn for 20 years, like since I
Eh,
graduated from college, like 21 years ago.
Do you get a badge for that? Is there like a 20-year badge or anything? There should
There
be.
should be. I mean, I should have like some sort of like 20-year member,
Honorary. Yeah, exactly.
members club. But one thing I did back in the day is everyone I met, I would go and I would add them on LinkedIn, like right afterwards. Like, so I
Mm,
would go to an event, I would meet someone at a school. Like, I went to school at UC San Diego, I'd go to an event there, I'd meet people, come back, look that person up on LinkedIn, add them to my profile, to my network. So everyone that I ever had an in real, like IRL, in real life touch point with, I would go back and I would add them to my LinkedIn and I would add them to my network. And when I interned in college, I would add people at the company on my LinkedIn or people that I talked to in meetings. I was really diligent about making sure that I was building this pool of contacts and building this community on my LinkedIn, because you never know where an opportunity may lie.
yeah. Like this one, I think, it was interesting when you reached out. I had started kind of plugging that I was kind of putting out this new podcast. You hit me up in LinkedIn. I was just, I guess, in your contact list already, but that worked out great. And I had another guest, Teresa McKinney. She's at the outdoor company called Nemo. And she had told me on an episode that I did with her that she would keep everybody not only in LinkedIn, but also on a spreadsheet. She sort of had a running Google sheet. She's like,
Mhm.
it's kind of creepy. It feels like I'm stalking people, but it's a valuable resource to say, here's the person, here's where they live. And that way, if she goes into that town, she can immediately look up and say, I'm in this area. Let me hit up that person and let's do coffee and let's just stay connected with people. It served her really well, though.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's so important to stay connected just for the purpose of staying connected, not necessarily because you need something at that moment, but just because you want to stay connected because you never know.
And that's the important thing, right? Is making it so that you're reaching out and staying connected genuinely so that when you do
Yes.
need something or the other, then it feels like, okay, it's a natural thing. Um,
Yep.
Lindsay, we're talking about 20 years ago. I love the fact that you were at MySpace. What was that like and how, let's talk about how things have changed. I mean, walk us through just how you got
Yeah.
that role maybe and what it was like and how does it compare to today?
Well, so the story of how I got the role is actually pretty interesting. So back in the day, I started my career in the action sports industry, which is how we got connected.
Mm-hmm.
I was a freelance writer for Transworld Business Magazine, if anyone remembers that back in the day.
Absolutely.
Um, I was a freelance writer for there, and then when I graduated from school, I got a job as an associate editor at a business trade magazine called Snowboard Trade News, if anyone remembers that from back in the day. Future Snowboarding, ring a
Yeah,
bell?
yeah, that one, yes. Yep, yep.
And so one of the things I did for the company back in the day as the associate editor was I created a MySpace profile for the magazine.
Okay.
So I put up a cover of the magazine and I just started building a community around snowboard industry veterans and brands and people. And we were kind of one of the first companies to do this on MySpace. Like this, I mean, MySpace was for like people at that time. Like it
Yeah,
was like
yeah.
really early on. And within like it was kind of crazy because I started it and then within weeks, like all these big snowboard brands started joining MySpace. And then all of a sudden all these snowboard brands were on MySpace. And it got the attention of an engineer at MySpace who wrote the profile, which was, me behind the profile. And
Mm-hmm.
he was like, "Hey, we love what you're doing." And, I was like, "Cool," and he like was a snowboarder. And so we stayed in touch. And then fast forward about 9 months later, 10 or so months, I found a job at MySpace as a content producer. And I reached out to that person and I said, "Hey, I saw this job. I'm interested." And he said, "Come on in for an interview." And the rest is history.
Wow. How long did you stay there?
So I was at MySpace from 2006 to 2012, so almost 6 years. Really rode the wave there of, I started there in the heyday. It was, the number one most trafficked website in the world. And then I left around 6 months after the company was acquired. Fox had sold the company to Specific Media, and Justin Timberlake was a partner. And he, if you remember, bought MySpace and portion of MySpace. So I worked with that team for about 6 months before I moved on.
Are there things that you learned during that time of, I would imagine, kind of hyper growth and being such the focus of, so much of the online community that you apply to today, to your agency today? Does it still kind of resonate with you, do you think, to your MySpace days, or is it just a whole different game and it doesn't even matter?
Oh, no, I think a lot of what we do today is rooted in the experience that I had during my time at MySpace.
How so?
Um, so Christine Moore on my team, we met at MySpace, so we were on the same team, and now she works with me at LTM. And a lot of our processes and things that we do, I would say, go back to the days. I mean, we've been working together for almost 20 years now,
Yeah.
from our time at MySpace and then a time at LTM. And a lot of our processes and ways we operate, I think a lot of that comes from our time at MySpace. I would say it was a really high stress, high pressure environment. It was very fast paced. It moved very fast paced. So for us, like we built thick skin. Like we have very thick skin. We're not sensitive to things. Like we understand client demands and needs. And I'm just so grateful for that, honestly, because nothing could get more stressful than that, honestly. Like it was a pretty intense. I mean, like literally, I mean, I remember being in the back end of like major, major musicians' profiles and having to like go in and make changes. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, this is like someone's profile. Like,
Yeah.
not just like tens of millions of people are going to see this, but like hundreds of millions of people are going to see this.
High
So
stakes.
yeah, for sure.
How, I guess let's talk then about LTM and building the agency that you've built. I mean, you've been building it for 12 years or something like that, right?
Yeah, this will be our 12, or yeah, this is our 11th or 12th year. Yeah, 12th year, I believe.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
because what do they say after your first year? How many years is it before you're like, okay, we're over the hump, we're off and running to the races? I mean, you're well beyond that. But what are some of the things that you think it took to build a successful agency? Obviously, was it sort of those experiences that you had before? You've done teaching as well. You've worked in the space for many years. Is it the team that you've brought on around you? How do you run an agency for 12 years and keep it going and still be successful?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is like finding the right people to partner with and the
Mm,
right brands that are in need of our services. So we're essentially an outsourced marketing team. We're like a Lego piece. So we come in, we're very fluid. If a team, they have a CMO, but they don't have any marketing support, like a marketing director, a marketing manager, or a graphic designer, like boom, we can plug in and help them with whatever they need on the marketing side, whether that's email marketing, whether that's social media content. So we're very fluid and flexible. So we really, one of the things that I did in the beginning was I really took the time to understand the business's needs and how we could help support them.
hmm
And also what niches were most desirable for a monthly marketing retainer that would potentially be outsourced. Because obviously there's some positions where companies would want those positions in-house, right? And there's others where they're more open to the outsourcing. So one of the things that I saw 12 years ago was social media management wasn't a thing.
Mm,
There weren't social media managers.
that's right.
Like it was kind of like, yeah, no, we don't need that, right? And I actually looked to PR, in the PR agency model for kind of what I started with social media, where I was like, oh, okay, PR companies, they are charging monthly retainers to retain their services. We could do something like that for social media and like manage a brand's Instagram and their Facebook. And so like looking at what those needs were and also identifying the industries that really needed that support. So I came from a tech background. So tech companies, they were kind of already onto this back then, but during the time I kind of went on my own health and wellness journey and I became gluten free and it healed a lot of like things that were going on with my health. And I noticed that a lot of companies in the natural product space did not have Instagrams. They didn't have good quality photos or content or posting regularly to their platforms.
Mm,
So that was kind of the industry where I looked to, and I had no experience in the industry other than I was passionate about it, but I
yeah.
had great experience as a marketer, and it kind of went from there. So I would say early on, just identifying the like what I can offer these companies and what companies would be interested in our services, and then how we would be able to fulfill them.
Huh. Well, it seems to be working. And I wonder did you have a moment though when you decided that you wanted to go out on your own and that you wanted to be an entrepreneur and do your own agency work? What was the
Yeah.
catalyst for you?
I mean, I always knew in the back of my mind, like it was always kind of a pipe dream, like I want to start my own company someday. But
Mm,
it was really during my time at MySpace where I was working on all these different projects across all these different industries. And towards the end of my time at MySpace, I started seeing all the contracts come in of the different consultants that we were working with. And I was like, and it just kind of like I had this light bulb moment. I was like, wait, I could be on the other side of this and I could
yeah.
be the consultant working in with these in-house companies and I could be doing this on the flip side and it kind of just set the wheels in motion of like, oh, that's where I want my career to go in the long term is in that direction, not necessarily climbing the corporate ladder. So that was really where I started getting the wheels in motion. And I think also for me, what really led me to take that leap and kind of jump in was my husband and I wanted to start a family. I wanted to be a mom, and I was working crazy hours, and I was like, I don't want to be in a position where I'm in a corporate role and I feel like I have to ask permission to leave at 4 o'clock to go pick up my kids from school or watch their soccer game
Mm-hmm.
or be present for them.
Yeah.
So I started thinking about that, and that was really for me, like that was my why. Like that was my driver of like why I wanted to start my own company.
Did it once you started down that path though? Because I know as you have your own company, as you're running your own agency, the work piles on. You're at first you're doing all the roles all by yourself most often. How did you find, were you able to find that balance that you were looking for? And have you carried that through now as you bring on other people and the team grows? Is that sort of a mentality for the entire agency and company now?
Yeah, and I would think, what is really important is I started the company before I became a mom. So I already
Mm.
knew that this was my long-term vision and this is what I want to do. And I was working very hard in the early days, right? I mean, I had the company, I was operating as an independent consultant for the first 2 years or so, and I we didn't have kids at that time. So then when my daughter was born, I remember when my oldest was born, I remember being in the hospital and launching the LTM digital website. Like literally like so wild. I was like, it has to go live before I give birth.
Oh man. And
um,
I'm trying to think. I just saw a post the other day. Somebody did a post from that, and it was, I think, talking about. It showed a picture of a mom like working from, and I think she was criticizing herself, looking back, going, "I would never do this again. Like this is not the culture that I'm trying to instill now." But do you ever take a look at that, or was that? I don't know. I guess I'm not sure what I'm asking there, but when you look back on that moment, what do you
I
think?
mean, when I look back at that moment, like it wasn't like like all I can remember is launching the LTM digital website. Like
Yeah,
I don't really actually even remember that. It only kind of came up when I was thinking about like looking back and reflecting on the journey. I was like, oh yeah, that happened like
yeah,
during that time. But it's not like that's the core memory like at all. And then I would also say, when in the early days, this was kind of like one of the things that I would do is I would invite other freelancers or people that were independent and working, like, and we would do these co-working sessions. And it was people that I wasn't even working with at the time, but it was just building this community of like, hey, here's other freelancers and other people trying to build their own businesses. And we would meet once a week, every other week, and we would just get together and kind of just share what we were working on. And that was super valuable too.
yeah. I wonder, Lindsay, I'm really fascinated by this idea of, building careers, how long it takes. And we just talked, 12 years at your agency, 6 years at MySpace, years at other places as well. So at this point, your career is now 20 plus years. When you look at it all kind of together, what kind of comes to mind when you look back through your LinkedIn profile or your resume and you piece it all together and get nostalgic about it? Is there anything that comes to mind and that you sort of pick out of there as something that you're happy with, nostalgic about? I don't know what comes to mind when you look at it all.
Yeah, I mean, I think really kind of at the core, like if I look at my career, like everything that I've done has been rooted in community and storytelling, like
Mm,
early days of storytelling. And I'm so grateful for my time in action sports specifically, because I think the action sports industry did such a good job back in the day of really building like a strong fan base and like really like core fans, that I learned so much about audiences and like building strong audiences and connecting with them. And really, social media is just the tools to tell those stories. So, I mean, essentially, I've been doing the same thing throughout my career. It's just the tools and the platforms that I've been using to do this have changed over time, right?
yeah.
So like first it was just like writing content, and then it was like images, and then it was a series of images, and now it's video and reels and Substack and all the things. So really all these social media platforms are is just a tool to tell a story.
I wonder if this is a moment you mentioned it. Do we look, taking a look at action sports now, which I don't even think it's called that anymore, just sort of the sports lifestyle space. What do you think of, are brands and companies still doing a good job with that fan base and the storytelling that you just talked about? Or what's
In
this?
that space in particular,
Yeah.
I feel like it's gotten watered down over the years. I mean, I will say I'm not as active in those communities as I once was. But I just feel like, back in the day, like the Warp Tour and, things like that, like I just felt like the action sport like Volcom, like back in the day. Whereas now I don't know if youth and teens today have that core feeling or like brand allegiance like we did back in the day.
Yeah. So do you think it's the brands or is it the audience now, which has changed the most, or is it both?
I think it's probably both.
Yeah. What does it take now for brands to reach their, I mean, this is what you work with your clients on, but what does it take for them to tell an authentic story, I guess? Is it long form content, short form content? I'm always running things by my kids. I have an 18 and 20-year-old, and
Yeah.
they're always like, coaching me on what to do, what not to do. You can't do this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so much. It just seems so overwhelming for companies and brands, I would imagine, and individuals.
It is. Yeah, it absolutely is. And I think that's the key is to find what's right for your audience and what resonates. Like you don't have to be on every platform to be
So
successful.
you don't have to be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
All right. I,
Quoting
I,
a song.
I still think the young people that I talk to, like, you have to be on TikTok. You have to be on TikTok. I'm like, I don't know if I want to be on TikTok. I'm not sure if that's the right fit for me, but we'll see.
Yeah, and that's a question I get from a lot of my clients. I would say that actively, I only have a small handful of clients that are on TikTok right now,
Mm,
but they all ask about it. Should we be on TikTok? And I'm like, no, your audience is older. Like I have one brand that their core audience is 45 plus. I'm like, you don't really need to be on TikTok. But I know now people are saying, well, TikTok is not just for young people like it used to be. Now it's for people of all ages, which
hmm
I do think there is some truth to it. But what I look at with the brands that I work with is where are you going to get the best value for the time that you have and the content that you have, right? And so if TikTok is not a fit, it's just not a fit right now, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that we won't revisit it in a month from now or 3 months from now or 6 months from now. It just means not today.
Yeah. Have you? It's good advice, and I'll keep that in mind. That'll be helpful. I guess you had this aspiration when you built the agency. You wanted to have some flexibility. Have you found that it has panned out the way you wanted it to as you've built your company? Did you get that flexibility that you want, and do you still today kind of run, the business in that with that original vision?
Yes, I would say I'm very proud of that piece of the business, because I do feel like I've fulfilled that. One of the goals that I had with the business was that when my oldest daughter went to kindergarten, I would be present for her in the afternoons, and I would when she comes home from school, I take her to her activities, we have dinner, and like that's what I do, and I don't take calls and I don't focus on the business for those hours of the day, right?
Yeah.
Um, that didn't happen when she was in kindergarten. I mean, she was in kindergarten in 2020 during COVID. So that was a whole other story. But I was able to successfully transition into that goal of mine of being present in the afternoons for my children when my youngest was in kindergarten. Now, it didn't happen in the beginning of kindergarten, but by the end of her kindergarten year,
hmm
I had really moved into that where I was picking them up from school and taking them to their activities and being with them in those hours in the afternoon and not taking any calls. And obviously, like things come up here and there, but for the most part, in the afternoons, I really try and be there and be present with my girls. And, that's just invaluable to me.
Yeah. I'm glad that it has worked out that way, and I love seeing that. And I mean, that's sort of the dream, is to have a company that's thriving, that you enjoy working on. Your clients are great, and you get to have that balance with your family and at home and your own personal time. What do you think it is, Lindsay, that helped you get to where you're at? You mentioned your time at, in school at UC, why am I forgetting? UC, did you go
San
to Santa
Diego,
Barbara? San Diego. That's right. Okay. My
go
daughter,
Dragons.
I'm a fellow UC alum as well. I was at
Yeah,
Irvine,
that's right.
and my daughter, most likely, she's got a handful to choose from right now. So San Diego is one that's on her list. So we'll see. But what do you sort of attribute to, if you look back? Was it school? Was it your network? Was there somebody in your life that really pushed you in a direction? Was it just you, that you just had that innate sense in you that you were just going to make all this work? As you were building, this career, what kind of fueled you and what helped you along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it, does come from experience. Like I looked at, I followed a lot of people on social media, and I saw people that were doing things that I wanted to be doing. And I was like, oh, I want to be running my company like that. Like, I want to be working from home, and I want to be setting my schedule, and I want to be having clients. And so I kind of saw like some of that early on. And I was like, all right, I want to go in that direction. Like, and I knew it was possible because like I was on the other side of it and I knew what we were paying companies. And I was like, okay, this is possible. Like, I can do this. And I felt very comfortable and confident in my experience that I had in my time at MySpace. Then after MySpace, I went to work for a digital products company called mylife.com. And then from there, I went to work for justfab.com and I helped them launch Fabletics. So I had a lot of really great experience under my belt, but I loved helping companies just grow from the ground up. And I knew those companies weren't hiring people full time. I was like, okay, so how can we make something work for those businesses? And I would say I've always been like pretty proactive. I'm pretty social. I enjoy meeting people, talking to different people. And I think that that helps you along the way too, because, you talk to one person, you set your intention, you say, oh yeah, I want to do this one day. And then they're like, oh, hey. And when I started my company, there were people that I went to and I asked them questions like, hey, how are you doing this? Like, would you share some things with me? Would you share some insight? And, people were more than happy to chat with me, which I was grateful for.
Yeah. Um, I'm wondering, I'm looking, or I guess as I'm listening to you say all this, I'm just looking over, and I did what I said I wasn't going to do, Lindsay. I got distracted. I looked over at my tab here, and I'm like, oh my, okay, is anybody? But we've talked about when we were prepping for this. So you mentioned some failures. So those are big successes. I want to talk about failures, but first, this is where my mind was. Um, what's No, no, I lost it again. I lost it again. Oh well, let's go to the failures. Any memorable failures, Lindsay, that you've had along the way? Because I know there have been successes. Things are good right now, but surely there were some stumbles along the way. What'd you learn from those failures, and what were they?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really glad you asked this question too, because I think so much of social media for people is a highlight reel of like, hey, I
Hmm.
did this and I launched this and today I'm doing this and I'm having this LinkedIn live with Derek. But there's so many little things that happen along the way, that maybe you're not necessarily talking about, or maybe you just had a really bad day, right? And you don't necessarily want to share that, right? So I'm going to share something that I feel like now I'm only comfortable sharing it because like it so much time has passed like since this actually happened.
Hmm.
But it really taught me some things as a business owner. So back in 2017, we signed our biggest contract in the history of LTM Digital.
Wow.
It was really, really exciting. It was just unbelievable. We were so happy. Um, it was a 6-month project, and we had to scale pretty significantly to support the scope of work. So I ended up hiring several contractors to help us scale the business,
Okay.
to put together this plan. Um, and my youngest daughter was 6 weeks old at the time when this was going on too. So I like look back at this, I'm like, wow, this is so crazy, but it's like part of the journey, right?
Yeah.
So we scaled the business, and it took up a lot of my time and energy. I was basically almost fully dedicated to this particular project at that point, just because it was so large, and we had to build systems and processes and operations and things that we hadn't done before, like in a much larger way.
Yeah.
So like I said, it was a 6-month project, and 60 days into the contract, the client signed a partnership with another company. And in that process, the other company took over all of their marketing and social media efforts.
Oh no.
So we had gone from like 0 to 180, like ramping up and scaling.
Yeah.
And then in the contract, there was a 30-day notice, a 30-day out. So they gave their 30 days notice. And so it only ended up being basically half of the allotted time.
Hmm.
Um, and so really like in looking back and in hindsight, like I always, whenever we part ways with a client, I always think to myself, like, what could I have done better? Like, where could I have been better? Where can I be better next time?
Mm-hmm.
And really what I saw in this was in my operations and in the contract itself is because we were scaling so significantly. One of the things that I should have done is I should have made it a 6-month contract with no out. And if there was an out, then the contract had to be paid in full.
Ooh.
To support the growth that we were doing. So again, like in hindsight, now, Lindsay in 2025 is like, this is how I would have structured this. But, looking back, it didn't go that way, but we learned a lot.
Yeah, those are tough when the floor kind of falls out from you like that. Did you have to with those contractors? So they were able to you were able to keep them for half the time, you said? Or was it
Yeah,
like you
so
hired them and
so
then had to
so
let them go kind of?
essentially, they were brought on for that amount of time, and I was only able to keep them for half that time.
Mm,
So, it's just an really unfortunate situation, and, I don't like to be in that situation either with my team because, our team is so important to us, and, so yeah, it was a tough lesson for sure.
so is the lesson here to kind of protect yourself in contracts and just sort of lock it in if you've got something big and you're going to make a big investment on your side,
I
lock it in
I
and make
think
sure you're
so. Anytime you're doing something big, and you're gonna scale and, making sure that you're protected and that your team is protected.
yeah. I know this space is changing so much. Social media is digital media and digital marketing. That's good advice right there, sort of on the big picture. But what advice would you give to someone who really wants to work in this space, or maybe who is considering being an entrepreneur? Maybe they're a new mom that wants to do some entrepreneurial work. What other advice do you have based on what you've learned?
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like today there's so many ways that you could get started, right? Because with the creator economy, like you can create your own social media profile. And like if you have a passion or a niche or something that you're interested in, just just start creating content, start building it. Or if you have a brand, like just get started, and kind of build and see where it goes. Especially if it's someone who is pursuing a career in social media. I mean, I think your own social media can be such a great portfolio for you
Mm,
in a lot of ways. So, and like on the mom side, I would say like don't be afraid to follow a path that's not traditional. You can do things your own way, and you can still be present for your family and be successful.
Do you hear that from, I'm sure you've got friends and peers that are moms that are working, maybe not on their own, but are working for companies. What do you hear from other moms, other professionals?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, the corporate environment today, it's really tough for working moms. Like it's a hard schedule. So I think that there could be a lot of flexibility and freedom with being a freelancer or creating your own business, that gives you those opportunities that I think that today's corporate world just doesn't have. So
Yeah. When you
it's
look back,
unfortunate though.
what's that? Say that. I'm sorry.
It's unfortunate. I
Yeah,
mean,
it is. It is. And that's something that's been on my mind, especially as my daughter now is 18 and just watching her evolve, going from, a little kid to a teen, a tween, and all of a sudden you've got this young woman who's going out into the world. And I start thinking back to all the women I've worked with, and it's just, yeah, it's been on my mind a lot, just how women go into the workplace, the things they deal with in their own lives, and
mhm.
you still show up, with full rigor.
Yeah.
So
And this was something that was never planned for the business when I started, but is just something that has naturally kind of happened over the years. But 75% of our clients are women-owned businesses.
do you think that's because you're a woman-owned business as well?
It's something that we never sought out, but I think it's just naturally happened because of who I am, right?
Yeah,
And our passions and our experience. And I think that, owning your own business as a mom can be, a lot better working environment for you. So I do see a lot of women like starting businesses or, taking that side hustle or turning it into a main opportunity. And I just think it's awesome. I love it.
do you get most of your work from word of mouth, or do you do a lot of advertising yourself?
Great question. So going back to the power of networking, the best source of business that I have is through referrals. So most of my business comes from someone who knows someone who's worked with me, who introduces us, and we get connected that way. I'm very grateful to our clients. A lot of our clients have referred us to other companies that they've worked with, say, hey, you got to talk to Lindsay
Mm-hmm.
about this. And like those are always, really great clients. So I guess it does really come down to relationships. But then there's, every now and again, there's someone that just finds me on LinkedIn or finds me on SE, through a Google search or something. And we've had great leads come through that too. We had a really big project with a company down in Mexico that actually came through LinkedIn. Just the person did a search on social media consultants, and I popped up. So
Okay, so that can be worthwhile as well. Yeah, 'cause
yeah,
sometimes it feels like you pay for an ad and you're just like I just feel like that went into a black hole and there's like
yeah.
nothingness from it. And the next thing that you're gonna get is from somebody you knew anyway. You're like, oh, what am I doing?
Yeah, the inbound side of like lead gen is something that I really haven't pushed too hard for LTM, but I am looking at that in our next phase of growth. But I'd say another thing for businesses too is just being active on your own social media channels. Like I can't even tell you, I call it the long time listener, first time caller,
Okay.
kind of strategy or method, because I have so many people that follow me on social media, on Instagram, where I'm the most active.
Yeah.
And they followed me for years and they know who I am and they know what I do and they know what services I offer, but maybe the timing isn't right. Then all of a sudden I get a message, hey, my company's looking for this, this, and this, and this. Are you interested in chatting?
And sometimes it can be 20 years later.
Sometimes it could be 20 years later.
That's
Sometimes it's 6 years later. I mean, you never know. I mean, you never really know, and that's why it's just, I think, like, the power of social media, like, can't be, like, underestimated at all.
And I think that's also the power. I think there must be some sort of like the Pareto principle or some sort of name for this, but it's basically it's the 10-year overnight success, right? It's just that it takes time to build that reputation and have people really know that you're out there and like you said, long time listener, first time caller. Before you know it, 10 years goes by and you're like, "Oh, I heard you're this new agency." You're like, "No, we've been around for 12 years, but you're just
Right?
now here." That's I'm fascinated by that. What do you think? I guess was all of this. This is kind of a two-part question, but what do you think? You said originally that you always loved storytelling. You wanted to be part of it. That was you wanted to help brands tell their stories. Was what and you always wanted to. You knew early on that you wanted to have your own business, but was all of this intentional? And do you think young people can be intentional about building their careers, or did it all sort of start? Did it all kind of fall into place somehow? How does a career like yours work? How would you explain that to
Yeah, I
somebody?
mean, I would say, like, early on, I knew I needed corporate experience. Like, I knew that I couldn't be doing what I'm doing today without the experience that I had
Yeah.
in action sports, at MySpace, at JustFab. Like, there's no way I could be doing this today if I didn't have all those experiences, because that's the value in the that I bring to the table, and the experience that I have as a
Mm,
marketer, a digital marketer over the last 20 years, right? And being able to take it and applying what I know and a strategy to all these different brands, I mean, is really something that is very valuable to a business. So I would say that I've been very intentional
hmm.
with making sure that I get the right experience. Like I knew eventually I'd love to try going out on my own. My husband and I always said, like, let's give it 6 months and see what happens. And if it doesn't work out, you can always go back to a corporate job. And, that was 12 years ago. So
Yeah, and you haven't looked back since.
no,
That that's good advice, though. I think that's really that is good to keep in mind. Like, go get the experience, especially on somebody else's dime and paycheck, and then apply it. What worries you about young professionals today? If there's anything, as they're building their
yeah.
careers, or what's intrigued you or has you excited about them?
So I think one thing that worries me about young professionals today is just with the rise of remote workers and hybrid employees, that they're not getting that time in an office environment.
Mm,
And like I just said about my time at MySpace and my time at JustFab, like that time that you spend in an office environment in the beginning of your career is just critical, I think, because you learn so much. You learn about how to work with other people. You learn about like the little nuances about the office. You have water cooler talk. You just like
yeah,
you have meetings in person, you learn how to read body language, and you also build a rapport with your colleagues and the people that you're working with. So I just think it's invaluable to have that office experience early on in your career. And I think and then you can kind of go off and you can, you can build from there and you've done your own thing and you can be in a co-working space or work from home or wherever. But I think that's where I see the biggest gap right now is like young people not having that experience early on in their careers, and maybe possibly not at all. So, that's something that worries me. I
Yeah.
guess time will tell. Um, and also just learning things like learning about urgency or like not taking things personally or, just kind of like people have a different vibe when they're like typing something over Slack, like they need to get something done and they're typing, but you could take it as like, oh, they're mad or whatever, and then you walk over and they're totally fine, right? So it's just like kind of reading people and understanding that. But then I would also say I'm like excited and intrigued too by how much creativity the younger generation has, like especially when it comes to like social media and how open they are. So, I think there's a lot of good things too.
Yeah. I think it'll be an exciting time to watch them come of age and get into the workforce here, especially these younger ones, especially the ones that just kind of grew up only, knowing social media. It's been really interesting watching my daughter right now turning to long form content and like watching shows and watching series and movies because for so long everything was just short form, short form. So it's funny to kind of watch her sit and like, be on season 4 or 5 of something that just wasn't her thing. It'll be interesting to see where they go. What, Lindsay, as we kind of wrap things up here, I guess, is there any other advice that you have for people as they're building their careers, if they want to kind of follow in your footsteps or get into this space? What else can we leave people with before I give you a soapbox to shout out or call out anything that's on your mind right now?
Yeah, I mean, I would say really like finding I always say this and if you've like heard me speak before, but finding your why. Like why do you want to start a business? Like why is it important to you? Like why do you want to help businesses do like X, Y, and Z? Like really drilling down and being crystal clear on your why is so important. Like for me, like my why was my family and the freedom and flexibility
Mm-hmm.
that I wanted and building a business around my life, not my life around my business. So that was something that was super important to me. So just being really, really clear on that. And then also just having like certain things that like your mantras, I guess, like, one of the things that I always tell myself is just focus on what I can control. And it's something I tell my kids too. Is like, focus on what I can control. I said I was going to deliver this by X date.
Yeah.
Focus on making sure I control that, or if it's not going to happen, communicating that clearly. So I would say focusing on what you can control and like having really good communication too. Like I don't think that can be underestimated today either.
Yeah. I always want to ask my guests this. What about college? Do you think college is important right now for young people?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think college, like for me, like I have a degree in communications, and I would say, do I use it? I mean, yeah, of course. Like I think I'm a great communicator, so I think it's good. I think I took like a media class back in the day where like we made a VHS. I don't, So do I
Hi.
necessarily use those skills that I learned in college? Yeah, because I think what college did is teach me how to think critically
Mm-hmm.
and think for myself, and be around really smart people that I just love so much. I mean, my UCSD friends like are lifelong friends. Like we do girls trips every year, and those friendships are invaluable to me.
Are these your friends from because you were the captain of the ski and snowboard team?
Snowboard team, yeah. So I've got two crews from college. I've got my ski and snowboard team, and then just my friends from the dorm and from communications. So yeah, that's my crew.
So good. And do you still stay engaged with the campus? Do you go back? Are you an engaged alum? Do you go back and interact and get with
You
students
know,
and alums?
I'm not so much, and it's funny. My husband and I both went to UCSD, but we didn't
Oh,
know each other when we were there. And yeah, so like we go back and we like tell our kids like, hey, the campus is super different now. Like it looks completely different. Like so, we've taken them there and like shown them like the Geisel Library and stuff like that. But I'm not. I think I was more involved, like more right after I graduated. Like I did a mentoring program with UCSD alumni, and mentored young people, but that's a great question. I should probably look back into that now.
On behalf of all the Alumni Association leadership, I can assure you they would be happy to hear from you and have you back connected with them. Well, Lindsay, the last couple minutes here, I'd like to give you the soapbox either for a shout out or a call out or a plug for something, but it's your take. So, what's on your mind?
All right. So shout outs. Well, thank you, Derek, for having me today. This is super fun. I want to give a shout out to John Herson, who connected us back in the day. That was how we met back when you were at Welcome, and I was at MySpace at the time. So very grateful for that connection. Like, here we are 20 years later.
No kidding.
So shout out to John and Derek. And then I'd also like to give a shout out to my team, to Christine Moore and Kamari Hawkins, my awesome team at LTM Digital, and to Kayla Pearlstein, Dose of Social co-founder, all of our amazing clients. Very, very grateful to have the clients that we do and that we get to work with every day. And of course, my number one is my family, they're my why. So
love it. Well, Lindsay, thank you so much. Thanks for a great conversation, some really good advice, some great insights. And so if you're listening, go check out Dose of Social, great podcast. Go check out LTM Digital. Check out Lindsay on her LinkedIn page, which continues to grow because you're always making connections. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.
Can I give you one more?
Please do.
I just launched a Substack. So yesterday, so you can find me on Substack, lindsaymauk.substack.com. And you can find me anywhere on social at Lindsay Mauk. So connect with me. I'd love to hear from you.
Have you built a Notion page? What do they call theirs now? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know.
That's a new one because I did a Substack as well. Now you've got all these things. I'm like, oh my gosh, oh yeah, Substack. Now back over here to my Notion page, which I don't even know.
Yeah, there's so many. It goes back to the platforms, right? There's so many things.
So many things, but yeah, just be a strong communicator and just basically, like you said earlier, know where your audience is and meet them there and show up for them and provide good content. So, Lindsay, thanks so much. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Well, you too. Thanks, Derek. Thanks, everyone.
All right. I'll hit stop. We'll let it load here for a second, if you don't mind. Yep. Thank you so much, Lindsay. That was great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Did we get everything out that you?
I think so. The only one that